Imagine the invisible lines that define your safety. The walls of your home, the boundaries of your neighborhood, the distance that separates you from harm. Now, imagine those lines are drawn not by your choosing, but by the constraints placed upon a predator who once sought to destroy you. They are out, free to move within miles of your fragile peace, while your own world contracts, every shadow a potential threat, every distant car a source of dread. Tonight, we delve into a chilling fictional account born from a very real fear. The fear that the space between a victim and their abuser isn't protection at all, but merely a radius of unending terror. 5. One title block. 5. 1. One novel title. The Radius of Fear 5. 1. 2. Subtitle. A stalker's release shrinks a victim's world, forcing a desperate fight for safety. 5. 1. 5. 2. Synopsis and hashtags. When a violent stalker is released from prison with standard restrictions, his victim finds her world shrinking to a terrifying exclusion zone, while it seemingly expands. This psychological thriller follows a victim's desperate fight for safety against a system that prioritizes offender freedom, blurring the lines between protected space and inescapable fear. 5. 3. Image prompt. A woman in her late 30s, looking over her shoulder nervously, standing on a quiet suburban street in twilight. The street sign is partially visible, showing a generic American town name like Maplewood Drive. The scene should convey a sense of isolation and paranoia. Style: realistic, atmospheric, slightly desaturated colors. Focus on her anxious expression and the empty street around her. 5. For introduction, pre-hook by narrator. Imagine the invisible lines that define your safety. The walls of your home, the boundaries of your neighborhood, the distance that separates you from harm. Now, imagine those lines are drawn not by your choosing, but by the constraints placed upon a predator who once sought to destroy you. They are out, free to move within miles of your fragile peace, while your own world contracts, every shadow a potential threat, every distant car a source of dread. Tonight, we delve into a chilling fictional account born from a very real fear. The fear that the space between a victim and their abuser isn't protection at all, but merely a radius of unending terror. 5.5 Audio novel content. Part 1. The Stalker's Return. The email arrived like a dropped stone in a still pond, the ripples spreading outward, disturbing everything. It was Tuesday. Not just any Tuesday, but the kind that promised nothing remarkable, sunlight filtering through the blinds, the hum of the refrigerator the loudest sound in the house. Sarah Miller sat at her small kitchen table, scrolling through her inbox, deleting spam, flagging bills. And then she saw it. Subject: Correctional Facility Notification, Jenkins, Mark. Her hand trembled, the cursor hovering over the subject line as if it might bite. She clicked. The language was bureaucratic, carefully worded to be both informative and impersonal. Mark Jenkins, inmate number XXXXX, convicted of aggravated stalking in 20XX, was scheduled for release on parole in 30 days. Standard conditions applied. He would be residing at an approved address. And, most relevant to Sarah, he would be subject to an exclusion zone, prohibited from entering Penn Hill County, which included her town of Havenwood, and the two counties immediately adjacent, Northwood and Black Creek. Sarah read it 3 times, the words blurring, then sharpening into terrible focus. Exclusion zone. She knew about exclusion zones. The detective, Ray Maxwell, had mentioned it after the trial, a measure of protection. A 50-mile radius, the email seemed to imply, though it wasn't explicitly stated, just the names of the counties. Penn Hill, Northwood, Black Creek. 3 counties she was supposedly safe in. 3 counties he couldn't enter. She pushed away from the table, the chair scraping against the linoleum floor. She walked to the living room, drawn to the large front window overlooking Maplewood Drive. It was a quiet street, lined with mature oak trees, sprinklers misting emerald lawns, children's bicycles left carelessly on driveways. Normal. Safe. A world she had fought tooth and nail to reclaim after Jenkins had invaded it. After he had held her here, in this very house, for 8 agonizing hours, his rage simmering just beneath a veneer of twisted affection. He had wanted to possess her, to control her every breath, every thought. He had almost succeeded. She had spent the last 3 years rebuilding. Therapy sessions with Dr. Albright, rigorous security upgrades, self-defense classes until her muscles ached. She had worked from home, minimizing her exposure, slowly, painstakingly weaving a new pattern of life that felt secure. It was a smaller life than before, perhaps cautious and contained, but it was hers. Now, with a single email, that fragile sense of safety was shattered. The phone rang, sharp and sudden, making her jump. It was her mother, Martha. "Sarah? Honey? Did you get the email?" Martha's voice was tight with worry. Sarah swallowed, trying to keep her own voice steady. "Yeah, Mom. Just got it." "Oh, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" "I don't know, Mom. It's just hitting me." Sarah hugged herself, looking out the window at the peaceful street that suddenly felt exposed. 30 days. He'll be out in 30 days. "But the zone, Sarah, they said there'll be a zone. He can't come near you." "Near me?" "Mom, they said Penn Hill, Northwood, and Black Creek. That's a huge area he can't be in. But think about it. He could be right up to the border of any of those counties. That's still close." Sarah walked over to a map pinned to the wall, a map of the state she used to plan weekend trips. She found Havenwood in Penn Hill County. Then she traced the borders of Northwood and Black Creek. "Look, Mom, you live in Oak Haven, right inside Black Creek. I won't be able to visit you without feeling like I'm taking a risk." "Oh, Sarah, no. That's not right." "It's not. He gets the entire rest of the state to move around and freely, and I lose 3 counties worth of space. My world shrinks and his expands. It's backwards, Mom. It feels like I'm the one being excluded, not him." Her mother sighed, a sound of helpless frustration. "I know, honey. It's not fair. I wish there was something we could do." "Me too," Sarah whispered, the map a cruel illustration of her new reality. The lines drawn weren't keeping her safe. They were defining the limits of her freedom, dictated by the man who had stolen it once before. The official word was parole, release, managed risk. For Sarah, the truth was much simpler and far more terrifying. The Stalker was coming back into her orbit, and her only protection was a line on a map that felt less like a barrier and more like a cage. Later that week, Sarah sat with Dr. Albright in her quiet office. The air was calm, the furniture soft, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside Sarah. "The feeling you're describing, Sarah," Dr. Albright said gently, "this sense of your world shrinking, it's a very common response in situations like this. The exclusion zone, while intended for protection, highlights the perpetrator's proximity. It shifts the focus from their confinement to their freedom, and therefore to your vulnerability. Exactly, Sarah exclaimed, leaning forward. They call an exclusion zone for him, but I feel like it's an exclusion zone for me. I'm excluded from feeling safe outside of this little bubble. Every trip to the grocery store, every drive further than I absolutely have to, it's going to be a calculation now. Is it worth the anxiety? Is this area safe? How close am I to that line? And the constant vigilance required, Dr. Albright added. That hyper-awareness drains you. It's a psychological burden. The system is designed with certain legal parameters, balancing public safety with the offender's rights upon release. But it often fails to account for the profound, lasting psychological impact on the victim. His rights, Sarah scoffed softly, without humor. What about my right to feel safe?